All right, I'm back and I got some great news. I'm booting up to the BIOS. I don't know, I didn't do anything. I think just this has been unplugged for so long that like it needed to, like I think it had to do with the power. I think the power just had to kind of be dispersed throughout the system. So we'll talk to ChatGPT about that. But we can see just how good news this is. It's at a screen to enter the BIOS. So all we have to do is enter F12, and that should take us to boot options. Um, but it didn't work. Uh, Okay, but anyways, we can see just how much better of a situation this is. And it looks like it did switch to say that it's preparing the one-time boot menu now. So really good progress. So let's talk to ChatGPT a little bit about what might have been going on. Hey, so do you remember when I was working on powering up the Precision T5600 series and the monitor was like turning white but wasn't like going up? Do you remember any of that?
Hey, yeah, I remember that issue with the Precision T5600 series. It was a while ago, right? Did you end up solving it, or is it still giving you trouble?
Well, it was a few hours ago, but it was definitely today. It wasn't that long ago. It was just a few hours. So I think I did end up resolving it. I just left the system plugged in, but turned off, and then the next time I turned it on, which was 2 or 3 hours later, now I'm having a much better outcome. So do you know, like, does that sound right? Does that sound like that's something that typically would happen?
That's interesting. Sometimes leaving the system unplugged or turned off can help reset components, especially if there was a power-related glitch. So it sounds like what you did might have cleared up whatever was causing the issue. Are you noticing any other improvements, or just the monitor behavior?
Well, I think you misunderstood what I was saying. I didn't leave it unplugged. In fact, quite the opposite. This is a system that has been sitting in my neighbor's closet for however many years unplugged, unused. So what I did was quite the opposite. I plugged it in and I left it plugged in for a few hours.
Got it. So you powered it up after it had been sitting for a long time. That makes sense, especially if capacitors or other components needed a bit of time to stabilize after being unused. It sounds like letting it sit plugged in helped. Are you all set now, or is there anything else that still needs attention?
Well, I still need to get into the system. I hit the one-time boot menu option, but it's still not loading into it. But okay, so I guess so that's the final answer, right? Is you don't even have to turn it on, right? You just plug it in, leave it plugged in for a few hours. Because what I did is I plugged it in, and then after a few minutes, I tried to see if it would boot up, and it wouldn't boot up and I wasn't getting a display on my monitor. I only got that display after coming back to it a few hours later. But you're telling me that that should be like a troubleshooting step, basically, in hardware is like come back a few minutes later, or sorry, not a few minutes later, but a few hours later, because those capacitors need to be, something needs to happen to the capacitors, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a troubleshooting step. Sometimes leaving a system powered but not turned on can help components stabilize, especially after long periods of inactivity. If you're still having trouble booting, you might also want to check the CMOS battery or reseat the RAM. Have you tried any of those steps yet?
Well, I'm there, right? Like I'm booting into BIOS revision A14, so like I think those won't be the problems. But what components? Well, tell me what components would benefit from just leaving it plugged into the wall for a few hours. Tell me that.
Sure, capacitors are one example. They can need a bit of time to charge up fully, especially in older systems. Also, some power supply units benefit from a steady current before being fully operational. Sometimes even the motherboard can benefit from that initial power stabilization. So if you're booting into BIOS now, that's a good sign those components are functioning properly.
Okay, but would you say fundamentally it's likely the capacitor?
It's definitely possible, especially with older hardware. Capacitors can degrade over time, so letting them charge up might have made a difference. If everything's running smoothly now, it seems like you're on the right track.
Let me read this thing from Wikipedia. So it says energy stored in a capacitor. To increase the charge and voltage on a capacitor, work must be done by an external power source to move charge from the negative to the positive plate against the opposing force of the electric field.
Exactly. That means when a capacitor hasn't been used for a while, it might take some time for it to build up the necessary charge. So letting it sit with power applied helps it reach its optimal state. That aligns with what you experienced.
All right, and this idea of work, so that's going to take, so work must be done by an external power source. So that work can take a few hours.
It doesn't necessarily take hours, but for older components, it can take a bit of time. Usually, a few minutes is enough. If a system has been off for years, giving it more time doesn't hurt and can help ensure everything is stable. Sounds like you found a good approach.
Yeah, I thought it would be fine just to like plug it in and after and have it go up, but I'm only getting to this point, which is progress because I left it for a few hours. So, it could have been, leaving it for a few hours after 10 minutes, it started working. But do you know anything about like because there's an equation here. It says the total energy W stored in a capacitor expressed in joules is equal to the work done in establishing the electric field from an unchanged state.
Yeah, the energy stored in a capacitor is given by the equation W equals 1 half CV squared, where C is the capacitance and V is the voltage. That means the work done by the power source to charge the capacitor depends on both its capacitance and the voltage applied. So in your case, that process of re-establishing charge after a long period of inactivity likely took some time.
Okay, and is time a part of this equation? This 1/2 times C times V squared?
No, time isn't directly in that equation. The energy stored depends only on capacitance and voltage, but time can influence how quickly a capacitor charges or discharges, especially if it's been inactive. In practice, the rate at which it stabilizes can vary, which is why leaving it plugged in for a while helped in your case.
What equation can you use to predict that time?
The time it takes for a capacitor to charge or discharge is often described using the time constant, tau equals RC, where R is the resistance and C is the capacitance. This gives you an idea of how quickly the capacitor charges to about 63% of the supply voltage. For a precise prediction, you need those values.
Okay, so the RC time constant could help me determine how long it'll take for this system to be ready.
Exactly. The RC time constant gives you a ballpark figure for how quickly the capacitor will charge up. It won't give you an exact time for the whole system to be ready, but it does help understand the charging behavior of capacitors in the circuit.
All right, so I see it there on the Wikipedia page for the RC time constant, which you can probably look up. I see a calculator. Do you see that?
You're interested in the RC time constant, which is the product of resistance and capacitance in a circuit. This constant determines how quickly a capacitor charges or discharges. For example, after one time constant, a capacitor charges to about 63% of its full voltage.
All right, but do you see the calculator section where it says, for instance, 1 mega ohms of resistance with 1 micro farads of capacitance produces a time constant of approximately 1 second? Do you see that part?
Yes, I see that. It's an example showing how resistance and capacitance values combine to give a time constant. For instance, 1 mega ohm of resistance and 1 microfarad of capacitance result in a time constant of 1 second. This means it would take roughly 1 second for the capacitor to charge to about 63% of its full voltage.
All right, and how many ohms do you think my T 5600 has?
For a desktop system like the Precision T5600, the exact resistance would vary depending on specific components and circuits, but generally, it's not something you can easily measure or calculate without detailed schematics. The RC time constant example from Wikipedia is more for simple circuits rather than complex systems like a computer.
Oh, well, I mean, you have the schematics, right? You have the user manual, right?
The user manual typically contains general information like specifications, installation instructions, and troubleshooting tips, but not detailed circuit schematics. Those schematics are usually proprietary to the manufacturer. If you need specific technical details, you might find some in service manuals, but even those won't have exact resistance values for all circuits.
No, I don't need that. I just want it to I just want this to show up.
Got it. If you're waiting for the system to be fully functional, it sounds like you're on the right track. Letting it sit plugged in and giving it time to stabilize seems to have helped. If it's booting into BIOS, you're making progress. Anything else you'd like to try?
I guess I'll try turning it off and turning it back on again. That always works, doesn't it?
It's a classic move for a reason. Power cycling can often resolve lingering issues. Give it a shot and see if everything comes up smoothly this time.
Oh, sweet. I see the status bar now moved all the way to the right. Aha! So perfect. So I'm on to the next step now.
Awesome. Sounds like it's progressing well. Hopefully, everything boots up smoothly from here. What's your next step?
I've got an alert. It says, and I'm making a YouTube video, so I'll show my viewers that. So it says, alert CPU 1 fan failure. Your current power supply does not support the recent configuration changes made to your system. Please contact Dell technical support team to learn about upgrading to a higher wattage power supply. To continue, press F1. To change setup option, press F2. To run onboard diagnostics, press F5.
That's a useful alert for your viewers to see. It looks like your system detected a CPU fan issue or a power supply mismatch. Pressing F1 will let you continue booting, but it's good to address those warnings. Maybe a quick check on the fan and power supply capacity would be a good next step.
So you would say F5?
F5 for onboard diagnostics would be a good idea to run a check on the system components. It can help pinpoint the exact issue with the fan or power supply. If everything checks out, you can proceed from there.
All right, so I'm doing it. It's saying that it's running a test now.
Great. The diagnostics should give you a clear picture of any hardware issues. It's a good step to confirm everything's functioning properly. Let's see what it reports.
So what did it say was the problem was? It said that there was a processor fan that was not working, right?
That's right. The alert mentioned a CPU fan failure. The diagnostics will help confirm if it's a fan issue or something else. If it is the fan, you might need to check its connection or consider replacing it.
All right. Well, it looks like it's still testing. I think I probably need to give it time to finish testing. It looks like it's 25% complete with the testing.
Yeah, these diagnostics can take a bit of time to run through everything. It's good to let it complete so you get a full report. Patience pays off.
Yeah, but I don't know how much patience I have.
I get that. Waiting on tests can be a bit tedious. Maybe just take a moment to relax while it finishes up. Hopefully, it won't be too much longer.
Yeah, and I can pause my YouTube video. It looks like it's so let me show my viewers what I'm seeing here.
That's a great idea. It's always helpful for viewers to see the process in real time. Sharing your experience step by step can be super informative.
Okay, so I'm seeing check marks, green check marks, and then I'm seeing blue circles. One of the blue circles is on the first processor fan, and aha, it looks like I've got a problem here. So it says error code 200-0511 validation 97181 message fan. The processor fan has failed to respond correctly. The given error code and message, yeah. So do I want to continue testing? Should I do yes, no, or retry?
All right, that error code confirms the CPU fan issue. It's probably best to replace or check the fan connection. If you want to continue testing other components, you can hit yes. If you're done for now, no will exit. It's up to you.
Let's hit yes. I feel like yeah, I can because maybe as I was working in there, one of the fan cables jostled loose or something like that, or I accidentally disconnected it, or this was given to me for free out of someone's junk closet, so they probably threw it away because one of the fans stopped working. So let's just hit yes for now. And even if the processor fan doesn't work, like that might not necessarily matter, right? As long as the temperatures are fine on each of the processors.
Sure, hitting yes will continue the tests. It's possible a loose connection or the fan being old is the cause. Even if the fan isn't working, the system might run okay for a while, but it's always better to have cooling fully functional, especially for long term use. Let's see how the rest of the tests go.
Yeah, all the other fans appear to be, well, actually, we haven't gotten that far yet. So the system has a green check, the cables have a green check, which is interesting because I'm not sure what cables they're talking about there. If it's the fan cable and it has a green check, then that rules out a cable issue with the fan, and it's more an issue with the fan itself or something. So then the video card has a green check on it. It's still analyzing the hard drives and the second processor fan.
That's promising. If the cables and other components are getting green checks, it narrows down the issue to the CPU fan itself. Once the tests finish, you'll have a clearer picture. If the fan is the only problem, replacing it should be straightforward.
Yeah, I might be able to replace the fan with another fan or something.
Absolutely. Replacing a CPU fan is usually pretty simple, especially if you have a spare or can get a compatible one. Just make sure it fits the socket and has the right connector. Once that's sorted, you should be good to go.
And I might not even need the fan altogether, right? Like if it's not overheating, like what good is the fan?
The fan helps maintain optimal temperatures, especially under load. While it might run fine short term without it, prolonged use could lead to overheating and potential damage. It's safer to replace it to ensure everything stays cool and runs smoothly.
All right, so I guess I'm gonna put the video I'm making on pause. It's now 31% complete rather than 25, and then I'll come back when it's 100%.
Sounds like a plan. Taking a break and coming back once the diagnostics are done is a good approach. That way, you'll have the full report to share with your viewers and can decide on the next steps.
All right, so with that, I'll be back once this diagnostic test is complete. Ah, it looks like we've got another code. So before I drop off, let's look at this other code. So here's the camera, and here's the other code. So, and I'll read this code out to the to there. Okay, so it looks like before I log off, I actually have another, or not log off, before I pause the video and come back later, I actually have another code. So this is error code 200-0512, validation 107889, and then the message is the fan again. The processor fan is running faster than expected. So that's interesting because I thought it wasn't running at all. So it looks like this second fan is running too fast now. So maybe he's trying to compensate for the first one failing. I don't know.
That's interesting indeed. The second fan might be compensating for the first fan's failure by ramping up its speed. It's a good sign that at least the system is aware of the imbalance and trying to maintain proper cooling. Once you replace or fix the first fan, that should balance things out.
All right. Well, looks like both of my processor fans failed because of that, so that's probably not good.
It does sound like both fans need attention. It's not ideal, but at least you know what needs fixing. Replacing or reseating them should help get your system back in top shape. Once that's done, you'll be good to go.
All right. Well, we're at 69% now, so it's almost done.
Nice, it's almost there. Once it's finished, you'll have a full picture of your system status. Then you can decide on the best course of action for those fans.
All right, 75%. I guess I just gotta wait. Now it's doing a memory test activity.
Yep, almost there. Memory tests can take a bit, but it's great to have everything checked thoroughly. Just a little more patience, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, only the processor fans failed so far, but both of them failed, so I should probably take a look at that. I mean, I probably unplugged it, is probably what happened.
That's likely, especially if you've been working inside the case. Double checking those connections should do the trick. If it's just a loose cable, you'll be back up and running in no time.
All right, still at 75%.
Hang in there. The final stretch is always the slowest. Once it's done, you'll have all the info you need.
All right, so it looks like so I see a table, table 24 in the manual, internal connectors. So it looks like the processor fans on a T5600 require two 5-pin connectors. So I'll have to open this thing up and see if they have those two 5-pin connectors attached.
Good plan. Checking those connectors will help confirm if they're seated properly. If one's loose or disconnected, reattaching it should solve the issue. Best of luck, and hopefully that's all it takes.
I feel like I should stop this diagnostic test then and just work on this fan issue. What do you think? Should I wait for it to complete or should I just stop it now and check the fans?
If you're confident the fans are the main issue, stopping the test now makes sense. Fixing the fans first could resolve everything. Once they're sorted, you can run diagnostics again if needed.
Well, I mean, it is doing the memory WCMCH test, so like, it'd be good for it to complete that, right?
True, if it's close to finishing the memory test, it might be worth waiting a bit longer. That way, you'll have a complete picture. If it doesn't take too long, letting it finish up could be beneficial.
Yeah, I feel like I should just let it finish up, but I'll do it. I'll pause the video and come back.
That sounds like a solid plan. Letting it finish and then coming back to address the fan issue will give you a full report to work from. Good luck.
All right, so yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'll pause this video and I'll be back when this diagnostic test is 100% complete. We'll see if there's any other issues. Most importantly, the diagnostics haven't finished yet on the hard drives, so that's really key that those pass the diagnostics because that's going to be critical to our RAID setup. Um, the memory is also going to be also hasn't passed yet, so if there's bad memory, I need to know that and get that memory replaced. So there's definitely going to be some value in letting this test finish. So I'll pause and come back and look over the results once it's at 100%. All right, I'm back. So everything's 100% complete. So let's take a look at the results. So the results are testing completed, but one or more errors were detected. Um, so two errors were detected, which is actually really good news. There's no issue with the hard drives. There's no issue with the memory. There's no issue with the processors themselves, even though the fans aren't working. So let's see if we can get more detail on what went wrong with the processor fan. So, oh, you know what? It looks like I'm redoing the test. In doing that, I wasn't sure what would happen if I arrowed up to it and hit enter. I thought I would see more information. But it looks like instead I'm just rerunning the test, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Maybe it will run uh, properly a second time, but I don't want to just sit and wait for this test to complete, especially since it hasn't moved on from 0 yet. So I'm going to hit escape. So ESC, it says. Okay, and ESC is not working, so I'm not sure how I can stop this test. You know what I'm gonna do? This is probably not advisable, but I'm just gonna tank the system. Uh, yeah, because it's nothing's happening right now, so I'm just gonna hit that power button. Hit it once. Hopefully it'll get the idea and things will power down. Yep, so things are powering down. And then once that power is off, yeah, so the power's off now. I am gonna open it up and check the cables to the fans. Now all the cables did pass, so not sure if that was the issue or not. But let's take a look. All right, so here's the insides. I'm guessing these are the processor fans. So there's some kind of issue with the cable. So we can see there's this one is plugged in here, and that looks fine. I don't see what the issue would be with that. This one is plugged in here, so um, I don't know. Maybe these connections are loose. I'll try to strengthen, just kind of wiggle them in place for each of them. I do see that the fans kind of shift a little bit, but that looks fine. There's also a connection here that I can try strength, kind of pulling that connection together, see if I can strengthen that connection a bit. Um, but all in all, I guess I don't see what the issue would be. The fans seem to rotate fine. They're just not getting power, I guess. So I don't think it will ruin things to just not have the fans running. And in fact, that might make the system run a little quieter, which would be a good thing. And the processors themselves did pass the test. So as long as we keep an eye on the temperature, hopefully the fans will be fine, and we can possibly repair or replace the fans that we got if the temperature does become an issue. And this is one thing I forgot to check as well is we should go back in there and look at the connectors. We should need two 5-pin connectors. So I'm not sure what connectors were there, but that could be the problem right there is the wrong kind of connectors were used. And I did notice that there was an unusual setup. There was a cable out from the fan going into another sort of like conversion sort of cable, then going into the motherboard. So that could be the problem right there is the connectors aren't actually compatible with the motherboard. All right, so it looks like I'm back at that issue now where it's just a white screen and I'm not seeing anything on the screen. Not sure what the issue with that is. All right. Well, anyway, but that's as far as I got. There's definitely something broken with the fans, but on a when the rain doesn't shine on a Tuesday evening, I can get into the BIOS. I'm not sure. It'd be better if I could get in there consistently, but the fact that I got in there once hopefully means I'll be able to get in there again. And once I'm in there, I can decide to continue anyways, even with the issue with the fans, and likely get up and running. And then I can keep an eye on the temperature of the processors, and if they go up too high, then I can choose to prioritize fixing the fans. But for now, I think that's it for this video. If I could get back into the BIOS, I'd continue it, but with this issue of it not giving me back the BIOS. I'm just gonna give it some more time to work and be back in the next video.